Hey guys, so today I want to speak to you about 5 books that will help you develop a millionaire mindset. Many of us in our societies today want to become millionaires. Some may admit it, some others might actually not admit that they truly want to become millionaires. The reasons why we want to become millionaires actually do vary. In one camp, you've got people who just want lots of money. They just want to feel like they've got lots of money. So for them, that's their core reason for wanting to become millionaires. Another bunch of people want to become millionaires because that journey towards becoming a millionaire over time helps them to create wealth, helps them to buy back time, helps them to invest in assets that generate for them some passive income for their lives. And a third group altogether, this is a much smaller group of people, want to actually become millionaires over time because it holds some eternal significance, something much bigger than themselves. Today I'm going to share these 5 books because I think the authors of these 5 books have some very interesting things to share. They're very different people. Just pick various points from each one of these books just to kind of share what I believe are the relevant mindsets that you need to develop in order to become a millionaire. What's very interesting from my personal journey is that the mindset you actually develop before you become a millionaire is way more important than the mindset you develop when you are a millionaire, because it's that mindset you develop before you become a millionaire that then becomes what helps you when you do become a millionaire, such that you're actually able to manage that level of wealth in your life. Do please make sure you hit the like button because that just helps this video to get promoted to so many more people. All right, let's dive straight in. So here's my first book. First one is this book called The Almanack of Naval, Ravikant. Now this book I came across by some recommendations from people who I actually respect and admire. And having read this book and gone through it, I thought that this book was fantastic for many reasons. So this book, once you open it, it's actually split into 2 sections. So the first section is all about wealth. So part 1 is about wealth and building wealth. And part 2 is all about happiness. And one comment I'd make about this book straight from the outset is that there is absolutely no fluff in this book at all. This book is just so straight to the point, which is one thing I absolutely loved about it. The one thing that stood out for me from the very beginning is this chapter that introduces us to the wealth section of the book, which is all about how to get rich without getting lucky. And it's a very, very practical section that really ultimately introduces us to this whole idea of what it takes to actually build wealth in the modern world. This book also introduces us to this idea of leverage, which I've talked about in a previous video. I thought this book does a very good job of just explaining what that means in very simple terms and leaving us with timeless principles that we can actually begin to apply in our own lives to begin to create some wealth in very practical ways. One core principle mentioned in this book is this idea of understanding leverage, as I mentioned earlier. There are 3 broad classes of leverage as mentioned in this book. One is labor, the second form of leverage is capital, and the third form of leverage is to create products with no marginal cost of replication. Okay, so anything that allows you to multiply the effort or the input that you put in. So if you put, say, 1 bit of input in, leverage is what allows you to multiply that to 3 times or 4 times or 5 times. This new form of leverage that's talked about in this book is a form of permissionless leverage, because we don't need people's permissions in order to be able to use that form of leverage to create wealth for ourselves. Good examples are coding, so creating or writing code, or creating media, as I'm doing here. The other really powerful point made in this book is the way in which we typically look at life. Typically, we start off by seeking wealth in our lives. We want to make money, and we want to use that money, if we're sensible over time, to truly create wealth over time. And then later on, we think to ourselves, oh, hang on, I've spent all my years chasing wealth. I now want to look after my health. And then after that, provided it's not too late, we suddenly realize, well, actually, after my health, I really want to start to focus on happiness in my life. And it's usually in that order: wealth, health, and then happiness. But what this book really tells us is that we have got it all wrong. We should be doing it in the other direction, which is that we should be focusing on happiness, then health, and then wealth in our lives. This book is packed full of mental models, bits of wisdom, and timeless ideas that you can take on from today and begin to apply to your life to not only build wealth, but to also become happy on that journey towards building wealth in your life. All right, so the second book I want to share is this one here called The Psychology of Money, focusing on the timeless lessons on wealth, greed, and happiness. So again, this follows quite similar themes to the previous book I mentioned, but it's very different in that this book focuses massively on the psychology of building wealth. The one thing that really stood out to me as I read this book, there's this chapter here on never enough. So chapter 3 in this book. And it begins by telling us a story about the founder of Vanguard, John Bogle. It says here, who passed away in 2019. He told a story once that highlights something that we don't think about enough. So I'm just going to read it to you guys real quick. And here is an extract from this book. At a party given by a billionaire on Shelter Island, Kurt Vonnegut informs his pal, Joseph Heller, that their host, a hedge fund manager, had made more money in a single day than Heller had earned from his wildly popular novel Catch-22 over its whole history. Heller responds, and this is so important, he responds saying, quote, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough." And then it says, for a critical element of our society, including many of the wealthiest and most powerful among us, there seems to be no limit today on what enough entails. I think that's such a powerful thing for us to consider. Oftentimes we are wanting to just earn more. And there aren't many people actually preaching that, do you know what? Perhaps there is a point at which you actually stop chasing creating more wealth, you know? And this is something that a lot of people struggle with today, as this book clearly tells us. Whether it be entrepreneurs, for example, people who are in normal careers, there is just this lack of enough in a lot of our lives. And this is a big reason why I love the concept of financial independence, because it's built around this idea of actually deciding what is enough for you. And we've made a video about this previously. I'm going to put a link to that below and above for you to check out. The other really important point that this book makes is that wealth is what you don't see. And you can see this in chapter 9 in this book. And this book makes the point that a lot of what we see on social media, on our streets, in our major cities, is the outward projection of people's lack of understanding of what wealth really represents. A lot of people simply just want to show that they're rich. They want to drive very flashy cars, live in really large houses, buy very expensive designer clothes, and post various things on social media to show you that they are doing well, that they supposedly have some money. When in actual fact, most of those people, the vast majority of them, actually do not have any wealth in their lives. Wealth is what's unseen. Wealth is the option you have to take up an opportunity in your life. Wealth is the money you have saved in the bank because you have not been spending all your money each time you earn it in a month. Wealth is the fact that you've got more than a year's worth of savings and you potentially even have many years of savings put away and invested and generating an income for you on a monthly basis. Wealth is what you have when you are not worried about losing your job because you have been diligent and been living below your means and preparing for all possible eventualities. In short, money is very different to wealth, and the latter is what we should be focusing our efforts in creating over time. And as my last book will highlight, the wealth we're building our lives is really not just about us. All right, so the third book I want to share with you guys is this book called Happy, Sexy Millionaire by Stephen Bartlett. Now, I'm sharing this book, which is recommended by someone within our community at Financial Joy Academy, actually, because the author of this book really goes to great lengths to almost rip apart all the nonsense we've been taught throughout our lives for what it really takes for us to live happy and fulfilled lives. I think the author of this book is absolutely daring and fearless in his delivery. And as he says at the back of this book, this is my intervention. So the story goes essentially, this guy, by the time he was 25, had become a multi-millionaire and created a business worth over $300,000. For those of you guys in the UK, Stephen's actually from the UK, although he was born in a village in Botswana in Africa. His story is really, really inspiring. But even more than that, what he shares in this book is absolutely valuable. One thing that really stood out to me when reading this book is the power of consistency when it comes to this idea of building wealth. I'm reading an extract from the book here where he says the eighth wonder of the world isn't just working for or against your bank balance. It's at work slowly and virtually, invisibly shifting the trajectory of every aspect of your life. For example, your health, your mental health, your reputation, your relationships, literally everything. Another really important part of this book that I absolutely love was him expressing the importance of gratitude. And again, reading a section here from the book. If a person could do only one simple thing to increase their health and happiness, then expressing gratitude on a regular basis must be it. This book really goes very far in helping us truly understand what it takes to be fulfilled in our lives. Just purely chasing money for the sake of chasing money's sake, it's just not it. It will not make you happy, and that's the truth. This book goes a long way in really helping us just unpack what love should look like in our lives, what success should look like in our lives, what happiness and fulfillment, the things that we typically don't focus on but really need in our lives, the things that society has given us specific messages about. This book goes a very long way in just helping us just question them and just rethink those ideas for what we see as key priorities in our lives and how else we should begin to think about those ideas in order to truly have fulfillment in our lives and have a higher level of success. All right, so the fourth book to share today is this book here called The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. This is a slightly older book, but this book does a really good job of just introducing us to this whole idea of our money blueprint. So the money blueprint is essentially the inbuilt, almost subconscious programming that we've had wired into us when we were children, and the impact that that blueprint is now having upon our lives today. The book makes it clear that your programming leads to your thoughts, and your thoughts leads to your feelings leads to your actions, and your actions leads to your results. So if you're currently struggling in your life at the moment financially, living paycheck to paycheck, but you're looking at other people's lives and thinking to yourself, how is it those people are able to progress significantly in their lives? One area to really go back and assess is what that inbuilt programming, that subconscious programming that you had from your childhood might have to say about what you're seeing in your life practically today. We've made a previous video on this particular subject, which I'm going to put in the links below and above for you to head off and check out. And you find in that video that we share various tips based on this book for the things you can begin to do to change that subconscious programming. Ideas around things such as modeling and repetition, which have been known to, over time, change your subconscious wiring and help to practically improve your day-to-day actions and mindset on this journey towards you building true wealth in your life. All right, so the fifth book is this book here called The Blessed Life. Now, I'm mentioning this because I wanted to share something that really gives you a different perspective on what it really takes to build wealth and what the core purpose of that wealth is in our lives. I'm using my personal life, and this book has really challenged me on a very personal level in that we typically, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, want to build wealth because we see it as a good thing. We want certain freedoms in our lives and we just want to feel a lot more comfortable. But what you find is that, and depending on what type of person you are and what your values are, and if you're a faith-based person, which I am, what you find over time is that the wealth you're building really should have a very different purpose beyond just you living a very comfortable life. I'm sharing this to be very transparent because I think this is a very important part of what the journey towards wealth building should be about. This book is really about living, and as it says here, unlocking the rewards of generous living. This book's really about us building wealth as a vehicle for not just thinking about ourselves, but actually ultimately thinking about other people. The principles that really underlie this book are the principles of stewardship. Stewardship is a word you might have heard of or not, but that word actually at the very core represents two things. It represents protection, i.e. protecting what's been given to you, so the things that you have in your life, your assets, your talents, your abilities, your money, the wealth you've been building, protecting all of that. And secondly, increasing those things, i.e. using them to generate some more value, but not just for yourself, but for the betterment of other people and much more eternal rewards. In short, the mindset of this book is that the wealth that we build through our lives is wealth that we are actually given in our lives, and is wealth that we're ultimately stewarding for other people beyond just ourselves. And that mindset is actually quite challenging, because what it really says at the very core is that the wealth you build in your life is ultimately not yours. Although you've got your name on it, though I've got my name on our house, on my bank account, on my investments and things like that, at the very core, what this is really saying is that my role when it comes to actually managing these resources is that I'm ultimately just a steward. As a steward, my job is to really look after my abilities, my talents, my family, the resources I've been given, the money that we have in our lives, the assets, all the various things, in the various ways that they show up in our lives. My job as a steward is to manage what's been given to me and demonstrate, and this is a key bit, demonstrate that I've been a good steward of those resources. And if I'm able to manage the very little things we have in our lives, then I'm ultimately bestowed with much greater blessings, because I've been able to demonstrate that I'm able to manage the little that I've been given. I have the right heart to be able to manage much bigger things, much bigger blessings. And the phrase used is that I'm able to manage true riches in my life. Now, lots of what I'm sharing there will probably go over many people's heads and seem very strange and very weird and things like that. And that's fine, but I wanted to share it. I want this channel to be an environment where I share with you guys what I truly think and the things that I believe are really important. Beyond just saying to you, hey, this is how you get more money in your life. This whole journey of becoming wealthier, it's not just about us. There's a much deeper spiritual element to this journey of becoming wealthy, and what that ultimately means for our lives and beyond is something that we should also consider. The author of this book has also written another book called Beyond Blessed, which I would also highly recommend. Both of them, if you are somebody who's on a faith journey, or if you're somebody who is not on a faith journey, you're really just curious about thinking of money and wealth very differently from this perspective that I'm talking about here. I'd highly recommend going to check those books out. For all the books I've mentioned, I'll put links to them below for you guys to click through and purchase them. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. What books have actually helped to change your mindset when it comes to this whole idea of building wealth? Don't forget to hit the like button if you really enjoyed this video. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our channel to support us here as well. Thanks again for watching, guys, and as ever, in all things, be thankful and seek joy. Take care and bye for now.